Good morning. Is anyone ready for some marketing? Well, if so, then today's episode is for you. Now, I want to give you a heads up that Dr. Kuba and I dive pretty deeply into marketing conversations today. So we've got about 30 minutes of jam-packed marketing tips and thoughts for you. But also, we have more marketing tips in the second half of this conversation, which will be made available to you through our subscription. So click in the show notes on the subscription, and you're going to get a whole second portion of tips. In addition to a second episode or a bonus episode on marketing, we also have our level 2 members, level 2 and level 3, get access to our digest, which is going to be packed full of lots of tips, but we are going to have a good section of marketing tips as well. So I want to let you know that this is the time to jump in and join and get some real practical tips and suggestions for your practice to help you grow and gain new patients. So enjoy today's episode, enjoy those tips, but if you want more, subscribe today.
Hey lady, I've got something that I thought was good to the article that I wrote for the April digest. I'm just kind of in a funk, and again, funk meaning like suddenly April, like when, why, how are we here already?
Yeah.
And I think just family stuff has taken over. Like I missed a lot of time in the office in the month of February because my mom had some health issues. So I just had this overwhelming feeling of being behind, like in March, kind of going, where am I? How do I reassess? How do I get back on track? And so you and I spent quite a bit of time talking about that. So that's why I chose that as my article topic for the digest. And so one other thing that I think has entered my mind has been, and it's not, I think the reason I don't talk about this a lot is because I find it to be relatively, one, boring, and two, somewhat tedious. Because you're going back and looking at tracking, and I think that's just not my strong suit. I'm again going, oh, well, I think this should be a fun marketing idea, or I think this should yield good results. But then like actually going back and tracking it and tracking the ROI, I'm like, I don't know. Never mind. I'm just going to move on, right?
On that note,
I'm going to go back and get distracted by something else because I don't want to look at this. And even down to, funny enough, like my associate and I, back when we were talking about if he were to partner in, how would we split, office roles and things like that. And he was like, well, yeah, you'd have to teach me the marketing. And my thought was, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what I would teach you. So I guess to me, like in my mind going, oh yeah, like teaching you how to use the laser for hard tissue dentistry. Okay, this is what you do. This is what you look for. This is how you do it, like stepwise. But marketing, I'm like, I don't know. Like that kind of panicked me when he said that, because I'm like, I don't know how I would teach you that. And I almost felt kind of dumb, like going, I've had a practice for a while and I don't have a strategy for marketing. Like maybe I do have one, but I haven't thought about it in a while because I think it's such a boring topic to go back and, right? And he being the very opposite of going, no, I would track and I would want to know, and me going, but I don't. So I think I wanted to talk about that here because I think that does, I personally need help with this at this point for me to go, okay, yes, I'm in April. I'm trying to dig myself out of the deficit I perceive myself to be in, which I think you reassured me. I'm not, because you've helped keep me on track, but maybe personally, mentally, I've been distracted, but the office is still on track.
Yeah.
But then the next thought is, okay, but if we still are, at the last podcast we talked about new patient numbers and getting patients in the chair, but do we have enough appointment times for those chairs to be open to put a patient in? And then that ties in with, well, what's our marketing to make sure that we're getting our patients through the door? I even sent something the other day, which I don't know why this randomly occurred to me. I don't know if you saw the email yet or not because you were traveling, but it's in your inbox, where I asked, are we still boosting 2 Facebook posts a month? And the response I was expecting was, yep, the response I got was, I don't know how to do that. Can somebody show me how? And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
So when you recommended that like 6 months ago, 4 months ago, and I thought it was being done.
Yeah.
So, can we talk about marketing?
Yes. And, it's funny as you were
Babbling.
teeing this up.
Babbling away. Yes.
I remembered something that I think you probably remember too, but back in the day, you and I met. I remember standing in your break room because your office manager at the time felt like marketing was of utmost importance for your young practice. And she had reached out to me. I don't know how she got my information, but she had reached out to me. I had met with her and had presented a marketing proposal to you and, to her. So I was talking to her. You popped in the way that you do into the break room. And I remember you kind of like, yeah. And then, and kind of walked off. And we did not start working together at that time. It was not until a couple years later that there was a bunch of team issues happening that you had reached back out related to team issues. And so that's when we started working together.
I have no memory of this whatsoever.
So my initial, because what your office manager wanted was marketing. So my proposal was just on marketing. And you were like, who needs that?
Personalities.
Yeah.
Who needs to know those?
Yeah.
Marketing, pish posh.
Yeah.
Send them a flyer.
Who is this lady?
Yeah.
Come on, Anne. What were you thinking? But then 2 years later, when there's team issues, it's like, okay, that's more pertinent. So it does go to show that marketing has never been your favorite topic.
I'm glad I'm consistent with myself.
Yeah, marketing. It's a young practice. Who needs marketing?
Isn't that with like these college students? I'm gonna major in marketing. Okay, off you go. I don't know what you're doing over there, but all right. Well, the rest of us,
live in reality.
Well, you either needed to be an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor.
Yeah.
Marketing. Yeah, let me go to my dad with. I'm going to go major in marketing. And slap across my face the other way. So I think that's where my marketing pish posh comes from, because I'm just like, what?
Who cares about that? But it is absolutely critical to a practice, and
it is absolutely critical to a practice.
It is.
I will come around full circle and say yes.
Gotta have it.
But I'm still rather clueless about all the nitty gritty. Like, I still don't like it, but.
Well, and I would say some of the most common questions that I hear from either clients or just as I, watch social media interactions, it's how many new patients do you need? It's like the most common question that I get, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about how many new patients a practice is supposed to have.
So I guess to me that again brings in my going, such a stupid question. What the hell does that mean? You need as many as you can get. Like, you always need new patients. Like, why are we, what do you mean how many? That's like asking how many, I don't know, how much oxygen do I need? You need a lot. Live and breathe. There's no cap on this. Get as much as you can. Like, I don't understand the question.
The more oxygen equals, the better.
Yeah, what are you asking? Why are you asking this question? What's the real question? I don't understand what that means. Yes. How many new patients do I need? Yes.
Yes.
Go get them. What? I don't understand the question.
But there is actually a lot of wrong answers to how many new patients. It's not as many as you can get. And it's also don't aim for the lowest amount. So and I won't bore our listeners I won't bore you.
Thank you.
I need to wait for the rest of this podcast. But there is a mathematical equation that I think is really helpful.
Oh God, math.
I know. So
can we change the topic? Never mind. Can we talk about patient complaints? Here, let me pull up my most recent negative review.
Let's talk about that. Which we need to do that.
Math equation.
So, to me, if it's an existing practice, you need as many new patients as you are losing patients. So, I just did this math at a team meeting that I was at because I was, again, like I love to do, running numbers, trying to figure out where we needed to tweak and make some changes. And this particular practice has always had a hard time making enough space for new patients in their hygiene schedule. And I am at war with that team. When I am there, I'm going and I'm creating these blocks and I'm like, we've got to quit consuming these blocks with regular recall patients. I'm telling you, I'm seeing the writing on the wall and we have got to see new patients. And the reason, the writing on the wall that I speak to is, hey, for the last 4 months, we've lost approximately 30 patients. And you're like, what do you mean you've lost 30 patients? I mean, there were 30 patients that were due in that particular month that we never saw and are not currently scheduled. Therefore, we have quote unquote lost 30 patients. So the question becomes, do we want to maintain our patient base, or do we want to grow our patient base, or do we want to decline our patient base? So if we've lost 30 patients, and that's not just a once in a blue moon thing, like for the last 4 months, we've lost 30 patients, well, then it stands to reason that if we want to maintain our current practice level, we have to have 30 new patients to replace those. If we want to grow our patient base, we have to have over 30 patients. You figure out how much. Are we okay with declining the practice? Well, then you might set it at 20 new patients. And you will most certainly, over the course of a year, decline in your practice. So that, to me, is the easiest math.
Which, that is so simple and smart, and yet the thought for any of us to go, what do you mean I lost a patient? You know what I mean? That's such a personal, defensive kind of like, what do you mean? Like, where else would my patient go? What did I do that they're not wanting to come back here? Did I up their insurance? Did Sweet Sally, was she not very sweet that day? Was it the associate? It must have been the associate, not me, right? Like, so all of those things, but I don't think any of us wakes up going, I wonder how many patients I lost last month. Like, that's just nothing that we, I think, inherently think about or want to think about.
Right.
So probably the only time we're thinking about that is
when there's a problem.
Well, I guess when there's a problem, or when we're supposed to goal set at the end of the year, and you make yourself look at that. And thank goodness you look at that for us every month. But I will tell you, just even you saying it now, going, how many patients did you lose? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh God, yes, you're right. And then that's where the overdue recare comes in, and so it can mushroom cloud very quickly. But I think that alone, just that simple question, when was the last time you asked yourself, how many patients have I lost?
Yeah.
I don't know, do I need to put that in my planner every month to ask myself that? I'm gonna say no, because you're doing it, but I think for my colleagues,
yeah,
it's
important. To me, it's the litmus test for how much marketing we need to be doing, quite honestly. And that's different per practice. I mean, I just mentioned 30 new patients 30 patients lost at the practice I was at. In some practices, that could be a very small number. It might be we saw all but 3 patients that were due. Fantastic. That means your new patient number, if you're wanting to maintain or grow the practice, can be relatively small. But for other practices, gosh, we get a lot of patients in and they are not good about keeping their appointments, and we're having to do a ton of marketing to kind of keep up with that. So it, to me, is the first question that you ask. How many patients am I losing on a consistent basis? If it's different per month, you can average it out. Over the last 4 months, what was my average? My average was 22 patients that didn't come back in for their appointment. Okay, we at least have our baseline number of new patients that we need to.
So for the people that are going to go, well, can you work the overdue list?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to try to get those patients back in.
Yep.
But does the assumption need to be that they may not come back in, and so then that affects your new patient number?
So obviously, step one, anytime I'm working with a practice, step one would be, how can we take the number of lost patients down? If it's 30, how can we bring that down to 20? So that's kind of step one. I've never worked with a practice that wasn't losing some amount of patients. Attrition is very normal in a practice. We have patients, unfortunately, that die. We have patients that move away. We are
insurance changes.
It is constantly we're
Sweet
losing.
Sally or the associate ruined something.
It.
Yeah.
Something went wrong. So attrition is normal. We have to, for a practice to maintain, they're almost always going to have new patients on them. That may only be 5 a month, but they're going to have new patients to replace the ones that are lost. If we don't have new patients, at some point the practice begins to decline and or die. Sometimes that's a quick death, sometimes that's a slow death. So all that to say, new patients are critical. know your numbers first and foremost. And then once you know your numbers, you know how aggressive you need to be with marketing. If you're fighting for, 30 new patients a month, let me say this before I get into marketing strategies. It does depend on the specialty as well. So general dental practices often need slightly less new patients than a pedo practice, for example, because a pedo practice, your attrition rate is much higher than a general practice, because a general practice can keep patients for their lifetime. They're 99 and they're still seeing the general practice. You, as a pediatric practice, are going to lose all patients at some point. So you are having to get a much higher new patient number than the general practice. The same thing goes for ortho. We keep ortho patients for a relatively short period of time. And so we're always needing new patients in ortho. Any of the other specialties depend on new patients. Endo, perio, oral surgery, they aren't keeping those patients for the long haul. The only practice that really can retain new patients for a long time is general. Some perio can keep patients for a long period of time. So that should also kind of be sprinkled in here, to know that if you're a general practice, you can often temper your new patients down. So once you know your numbers, let's say that you're aiming for 30 new patients a month. 30 new patients a month in most practices is going to be a maintaining number. It's not going to be a growth number. The only exception is general. A lot of general practices, if they're seeing 20 to 30 new patients a month, they're in a maintaining mode. For all others, that's normally not going to be enough to satisfy the needs of the practice. So we're normally aiming higher than that. But let's say you're going for a modest 20 to 30 new patients per month. Then you have to decide on a path that's going to get you that particular number. There's no one size fit all in marketing. Like, we cannot throw all of our eggs into one basket and assume that that's going to serve us for the long haul. That strategy makes me so nervous. So a lot of times we're going for the easy button. We're like, oh, we're just going to do mailers, and boom, that's going to get us all the new patients that we need. That is very risky, because the second those mailers stop working for you is the second then that you have a new patient problem, and now you're having to rebuild a whole strategy. So it should always be a multifaceted approach to marketing.
Such as
say, I can see a question developing there. So
I'm just going to tell you, right from when I started practice, in my mind, the mailers were everything, right? Because I was like, that obviously, like, my mailers are going to go out and the phones are going to start ringing. That did not happen. So to me, it was very, and they were very expensive.
Yep.
And so, even in that, then I still remember the company that I worked with was a very well-known company in Dallas, and kind of the go-to guy that you go for. And so we met, and he was very thorough and really had, so whatever design he gave me, I hated, because in my mind I was like, well, it doesn't highlight this, and it does this, and it does that. Now, who am I, right? But I really didn't like it, and I was like, well, it doesn't represent me. So then I requested changes on it, and when 0 phone calls came after that 5,000 mailer, 10,000 mailer for $5,000-$6,000 that I didn't have, I was like, well, shoot, did I botch this? Should I have just shut up and listened to the advice of the person and not put my own spin on this, acting like I was some marketing guru and whatever? So I guess that's where it can get really complicated, because then you're like, well, did I pick the wrong zip codes? Did I pick the wrong quantity? Did I pick the wrong time of year? Was my design not good? Should I have gone with the glossier product? Should I have the number of rabbit holes you could go down with just that topic alone? This is why I was like, I don't like marketing. Too many variables. I don't know. This is giving me a headache right now.
And unpredictable in some ways.
Yes, but then I'm like, well, obviously mailers work for a lot of people. So at what point can I give up after just one set of mailers? But I don't have the money for 3 or 4 more. I don't. That was one that was really overwhelming for me.
Yeah. And it's a huge investment. So oftentimes when we are putting all of our eggs in one basket, the reason that we're putting all of our eggs in one basket is because it's so expensive. We're like, that is the marketing budget. I've got no more money for anything else beyond that. And to me, that's where we can't do that. If that's taking all of your marketing money, then you need to come up with a different way to utilize that money. Now, I still get the question, do mailers work? They still work. But to your point, there's a lot of variables that you need to really pay close attention to, and you need to commit to it for a longer period of time. You can't do it once and expect to see results. Marketing is built on repetition. So they've got to see that postcard 2 or 3, sometimes 4 times before they're even making a phone call. So postcards or some kind of mailer is one version of marketing. It is normally one of the more expensive versions of marketing. And then we go in that whole category of expensive visibility. Magazine, ads or articles. Billboards are, something that you can look into. I've had clients do movie theater ads where their, ad is up in the movie theater. We think about visibility of sponsorships, like, I'm sponsoring this sports team and our billboard is going to be in the end zone or on the fence line or whatever. There's school folders that you can sponsor a spot on the school folder, the take-home folder, and then our logo's there. Car tags, school car tags where you hang up the tag to get to retrieve your kid, and on the back side of it is your logo. There's so many visibility options out there. Now, the way that I always think of visibility is it's a high dollar. You're spending for high dollar, low return. Doesn't mean it's not worth it. That visibility is often really, really, really important, but you got to temper your expectations on what you're going to get out of that.
And I think that for me was a hard one for me to wrap my brain around, especially as a newer office, because you're like, oh my God, like I spent so much on this. And then, even forget the cost. Even everything you just said, I'm overwhelmed at just thinking about that. Where do I go? Which movie theater should I go to? Which time slot should I pick? Who's creating the ad for that? If I'm doing a school tag thing, do I do the school folder? I believe schools somehow reached out to me. But if I didn't have that, then how am I figuring out what school needs a folder? I would have been thinking, what are you talking about, school folder?
Yeah.
I get it because I have kids and my kids come home with the folder that I look at. And so I'm like, that's what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Or the yearbook ad. Well, the problem with that is, does the parent look at the yearbook?
Right.
Not really. At least for me, I don't really look at my kid's yearbook now. I might glance through it once. The kids want to show me their picture and friends and whatever. But as far as visibility, I just spent, $800 on that yearbook ad. But who's looking at that?
Right.
Right? And so even the high school will say, do you want to advertise here? And I'm like, well, no, that's not the patient group I want. I want the elementary school kids. But parents are there and so are the kids. But then who do I find for the local elementary school or the local football team? Do I need to go out and find them? Do they come find me? Does our patient come and ask? That's how it's worked for us. Ultimately, it's a patient that's like, hey, do you want to be a booster sponsor here? And so I think this is, again, where marketing can get super tedious and super... Now, back to, again, what you just said a little bit ago, the visibility and the number of times you see something. Having to be patient for that is not my strong suit.
Yeah.
And being able to track that is very difficult, too. So, back to, again, where somebody will say, well, I found you on Google. Okay, was it really Google? Or was it that you saw the school folder, my logo stuck out in your mind, and then you drove by, and then that stuck out in your mind, and then you went to the, local college, local football game, and you saw my thing. And so all of those were just in the back of your mind. You saw these things. Oh, wait, now my kid is complaining of a toothache. Oh, yeah, that I just search for who's around me or who's on my insurance plan. Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
And then they attribute it to Google.
Yep.
So which makes you go, then forget it. I'm putting all my money in Google, and I'm not doing any of the other visibility things because nobody has told me that that's what got them there. But that's where there is. They didn't just Google you. I think it's that familiarity of having that, which again makes it very tricky and makes it very hard to track, in my opinion. Now, there are a lot of ways you can track these things. For us, it's one of the biggest things. It is a culture in our practice. You must figure out who the referral source is.
Yeah.
You must. That is not one that we let go. It's as important as putting down your allergies and putting down your pediatrician. Like, I need your social security and I need to know who referred you.
Yeah.
But it's still an inexact science, if you will, because when we go and pull those reports of where people listed they referred, I have to take with a grain of salt that it was Google.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is hitting the nail on the head. Number one, we can't usually quantify the visibility category. And that drives us crazy because it's our most expensive category and we want proof that it's actually working. But to me, if you've got a diverse marketing plan and you're tracking new patient numbers, as long as your new patient numbers are growing, whatever you're doing is working. And then we get real smart about it and we're like, oh, but when I look at the reports and Sweet Sally at the front, I told her she's got to track. But then there's nothing that says the school baseball team. Okay, so we're dropping that. Which again, we do need to reevaluate it. I'm not saying that once you set a plan you just have to do it. But be careful, because if we remove something super visible because nobody mentioned it as their referral source, then we may see new patients dip, even if it's just by a few a month. You're like, oh, new patients are down. No big deal. But 3 new patients a month over the course of a year, that's 36 new patients that you lost that particular year. So you've got to be careful with what you tinker around with. Just because they don't say the school football program doesn't mean that wasn't an important part of their decision making when they got to Google and saw your logo that they've seen before. So all of that visibility, we're paying a premium for it, but it is an important part of marketing that we're going to have to invest in one way or the other.
And be ready for the unknowns not to bother you. I think a couple of other, I'm going to just kind of, rein me back in when I need to be, but 2 other things that occur to me. One is, I love, to me, what I love about social media and Google is that it's quote free. Now, is it? No, like if you're paying for Google ads, which I think we all do, and that can rack up pretty quickly. But I do think that is a good ROI, at least based on the preliminary, superficial, I should say, data of patients putting Google.
Yep.
And so I think something to be said for Google ads. I think Facebook, like, again, I don't personally social media. I never have. I've never been on Facebook myself. I've never done Instagram, like whatever. But to have a key team member in the office that is very savvy with that. So I pay her to do it, but it's, to me, a great ROI.
Yeah.
She can tell you what patients respond to. She can tell you, and so honestly, like little things, it's little stupid things, but like at Dollar Tree, I saw some bunny eyeglasses. And I grabbed them because I'm like, I can already see myself and my associate posing with these, looking silly, that now I'm going to turn around and post on social media around Easter time. And I think patients love seeing that.
Yeah.
So all those little things were, I talked about this quite a bit in the, I think, October or November digest in the article I had, where we went to the state fair and I pose. It just so happens that it's my personality to pose in stupid pictures. Like I just think those goofy pictures are funny to me personally. But that's where I turned to my associate and I was like, yes, coming to the state fair is about team building. It's a relatively low cost and good bang for my buck because my team enjoys this.
Yeah.
But it's also a marketing opportunity. Patients love seeing that we're enjoying the things that they would enjoy. And so I'm like, you've got to start looking at it from that lens. Because he had not too long before had said something about marketing, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. And that's where I was like, we're not just putzing around through the state fair. I'm actively looking for things that are going to make good posts and good pictures. Or things like, oh, the fair food of, the winner of 2025 was the bacon coated with butter fried and whatever, right? We liked it. Did you? How many patients have tried this? So like that could be a post that, hey, we're posing with this. How many patients did that? And it's a way to engage patients.
Yeah.
Or at least give them something interesting to think about, talk about. Oh, I didn't know that was at the state fair.
Right.
Hey, did y'all know about this? How did you know about it? I don't know, my dentist Facebook page. Yeah, they were at the fair and they talked about this, right? So you're generating buzz.
Yeah.
For both my associate and I, we are both introverts. Neither one of us does social media. So I think for him, he was like, oh, because I could just see if I didn't attend and I'm like, y'all go, he's not going to be the one to say take pictures. The majority of the team, and if that team member that is assigned to do that, who it's her natural wheelhouse, she loves doing stuff like that. So if I send somebody to a conference or somewhere and their brain doesn't work that way, we have missed that, quote, free opportunity to capitalize on something that, by simply putting it on Facebook, that I think today's day and age, people are much more savvy with all of these things, but it still takes time and strategizing and thinking about these things, which in our busy day-to-day, we don't stop and think about.
Right. Yeah, I think the social media component of it is a new category of visibility that is pivotal. It's like we've got our paid visibility that we've always, talked about, that's more historical. The social media visibility is paramount. Every practice needs to have some of that visibility.
So then the question of, you said don't put all your eggs in one basket. And for me, social media is relatively cost effective and relatively easy to do. Thoughts on putting a lot of eggs in that basket? Would you still say we need the visibility dollars spent as well?
Potentially. It depends on the amount of followers that we have on social media, the amount of patients that are engaging with us on social media. It can, in some cases, replace the original, the OG visibility category of print and things like that. But if we're just developing that social media presence, then we may need a temporary replacement to that.
So I think for me, I thought you were going to say, no, you can't replace it. And I would have agreed with you on that in the sense of like the patients I'm trying to attract are parents. So it is a younger demographic and they are much more involved in social media and all of that. But that still means they've got to follow us, know about us. And I would imagine the amount of inundation you get on social media, like to make it that you see our stuff, that is a prayer, I think, and a wish and a hope. And so I do think you need to balance that with other things as well.
To me, the visibility is one category. We have to balance, whether that's the OG visibility of print media or the new visibility of social media, it's just visibility. Be sure to find more marketing thoughts in our subscription for April. April's content will be available 1 week from today. So be sure to go ahead and check it out, become a member, and if you do so this week, hey, you get March episodes and you'll then be lined up and ready to go for marketing tips in April. So click today and we can't wait to have you join.